I'm Jill. Welcome to my meditations. I've decided that for the next few videos, which I hope that you'll kind of keep coming back and checking them out, is that in order to get a better understanding of the background of these attunements in regards to things like Buddhism and Zen and the philosophy behind them, that a good way to be adding some background information and making it a little bit more enjoyable and a little less boring. For me anyway. Maybe you don't like poetry, but I've been looking at Buddhist poetry and am kind of enamored of it right now. And so during my next few videos, I will be giving some short history about the Buddhist monks that I'll be discussing, and I will be reading their poetry, and along with that showing the visualizations, so that you can let them seep into your head and flow in just as an attunement does, flow in waves hopefully, and help you to have a better understanding of the universe in the eyes of Buddhists and other practices that I will be covering. So in this particular one, I'm going to be talking about Milarepa. Now, he was from the time period of 1052 to 1135, one of Tibet's most famous yogis and poets, and a student of Marpa Latsawa, and a major figure in the history of Tibetan Buddhism. Now, before I get too far into this, I need to explain to you that my heritage is Swedish, Norwegian, German, and so if it sounds a little bit more like, yeah, sure, you betcha. And I have a little trouble with the names, because I'm accustomed to Lena and Oli. If it sounds a little bit off, it is because I am not I'm not familiar enough with the pronunciation of names, and so we'll try and muddle through that anyway, and just remember that there's room for improvement always with everybody anyway. So now the facts of his life are coming from Rang Chung, who is one of his chief disciples. He was born in Kaya in Tibet to a prosperous family. His name meant a joy to hear, and he had kind of a rocky start there. What happened was he was born rich, but his aunt and uncle took all the family money, and so his mother requested that he leave home and go study sorcery. And while his aunt and uncle were having a celebration, he took revenge and caused a house to collapse, killing 35 people, and the villagers were so angry that they set off to look for him, but his mother sent a hailstorm to destroy their crops. So sorcery was big in the day, and what happened after that was that Milarepa knew that revenge was wrong and tried to go find a different teacher. and found a Marpa, who was a translator, who turned out to be somebody who made him work extremely hard and would not take him on until he learned a few things. And so one of the lessons that Milarepa had to do was to build and then demolish 3 houses. So that was quite a task in itself, but Marpa still refused, and so Milarepa kind of took up with Marpa's wife, who felt sorry for him, and she forged a letter to another teacher, and that teacher was Lama Chudor, and so under his tutelage he began to practice meditation. And he didn't make too much progress, so he confessed the forgery, and Tudor said that it was pretty much in vain to hope for any spiritual growth without the Guru's approval. So then Milarepa returned to Marpa, and after practicing quite a bit, I would say 12 years, he attained the state of Vajradhara, which is complete enlightenment. And he's said to be the first to achieve this state within a lifetime. He became known as Milarepa, which means Mila, the clad cotton one. The suffix repa is to many tantric yogas, since they wear white robes, and then he started practice at Drekar Tasso, White Rock Horsetooth Cave, and became a wandering teacher. So Milarepa is pretty famous for a lot of his poems and song, which talk about the realization of Dharma, and they're done with very clear writing and very beautifully. He had many disciples, and they would have included Reichung, Dorje, Drakpa, Xampopa, and Dakpo Lodge. It was Gampopa who became his spiritual successor and continued the lineage in his tradition. A 100,000 songs of Milarepa is an important spiritual scripture for Tibetan Buddhism. And I'm going to start out with his poem, I Have Forgotten. May I be far removed from contending creeds and dogmas. Ever since my Lord's grace entered my mind has never strayed to seek such distractions. Accustomed long to contemplating love and compassion, I have forgotten all difference between myself and others. Accustomed long to meditating on my Guru, as enhaloed over my head, I have forgotten all those who rule by power and prestige. Accustomed long to meditating on my guardian deities as inseparable from myself, I have forgotten the lowly, fleshy form. Accustomed long to meditating on the secret, whispered truths, I have forgotten all that is said in written or printed books. Accustomed, as I have been, to study the eternal truth, I've lost all knowledge of ignorance. Accustomed, as I've been, to contemplating both nirvana and samsara as inherent in myself, I have forgotten to think of hope and fear. Accustomed, as I've been, to meditating on this life and the next as one, I have forgotten the dread of birth and death. Accustomed long to studying by myself my own experiences, I have forgotten the need to seek the opinions of friends and brethren. Accustomed long to applying each new experience to my own spiritual growth, I have forgotten all creeds and dogmas. Accustomed long to meditating on the unborn, the indestructible, the unchanging, I have forgotten all definitions of this or that particular goal. Accustomed long to meditating on all visible phenomena as the Dharmakaya, I have forgotten all meditations on what is produced by my mind. Accustomed long to keeping my mind in the uncreated state of freedom, I have forgotten all conventions and artificialities. Accustomed long to humbleness of body and mind, I have forgotten the pride and haughty manner of the mighty. Accustomed long to regarding my fleshy body as my hermitage, I have forgotten the ease and comfort of retreats and monasteries. Accustomed long to knowing the meanings of the wordless, I have forgotten the way to trace the roots of the verbs and the sources of words and phrases. You, O learned one, may trace out these things in your books. Milarepa. And the next one I'm going to read by Milarepa is the song on reaching the mountain peak. Hearken, my sons, if you want to climb the mountain peak, you should hold the self-mind's light. Tie it with a great knot, and catch it with a firm hook. If you practice thus, you can climb the mountain peak to enjoy the view. Come, you gifted men and women, drink the brew of experience. Come inside and enjoy the scene. See it and enjoy it to the full. The incapable remain outside. Those who cannot drink pure beer may quaff small beer. He who cannot strive for Bodhi should strive for superior birth. By Milarepa. And the next one I have is upon this earth. Upon this earth, the land of the victorious ones, once lived a saint known as the second Buddha. His fame was heard in all the 10 directions. To him, the jewel atop the eternal banner of Dharma, I pay homage and give offerings. Is he not the Holy Master, the great Milarepa? Upon the lotus seat of Milarepa, my father, Guru, places his reliance. He drinks heavenly nectar. With supreme view of Mahamudra, he realized that the innate truth in utter freedom. He is the Supreme One, Jetsun Marpa, undefiled by vices or faults. He is the transformation body of Buddha. He says, before enlightenment, all things in the outer world are deceptive and confusing, clinging to outer forms. One is ever thus entangled. After enlightenment, one sees all things and objects as but magic shadow plays, and all objective things become his helpful friends. In the uncreated Dharmakaya, all are pure. Nothing has ever manifested in the realm of ultimate truth. He says, before enlightenment, the ever-running mind consciousness within is shut in a confusing blindness, which is the source of passions, actions, and desires. After enlightenment, it becomes self-illuminating wisdom. All merits and virtues spring from it. In ultimate truth, there is not even wisdom. Here one enters the realm where Dharma is exhausted. The corporeal form is built of the four elements. Before one attains enlightenment, all illness and all suffering come from it. After enlightenment, it becomes the two-in-one body of Buddha, clear as the cloudless firmament. Thus rooted out are the samsaric clingings. In absolute truth, there is no body. The malignant male and female demons who created the myriad troubles and obstructions seem real before one has enlightenment, but when one realizes their nature truly, they become protectors of the Dharma, and by their help and freely given assistance, one attains numerous accomplishments. In ultimate truth, there are no Buddhas and no demons. One enters here, the realm where Dharma is exhausted. Among all vehicles, this ultimate teaching is found only in the Tantras. It says in the highest division of the Tantra, when the various elements gather in the nadis, one sees the demon forms appear. If one knows not that they are but mind-created visions and deems them to be real, one is indeed most foolish and stupid, and most stupid. I'm sorry, made a little mistake there. In time past, wrapped up in clinging blindness, I lingered in the den of confusion, deeming benevolent deities and malignant demons to be real and subsistent. Now, through the Holy One's grace and blessing, I realize that both samsara and nirvana are neither existent nor non-existent, and I see all forms as Mahamudra, realizing the groundless nature of ignorance. My former awareness clouded and unstable, like reflections of the moon in rippling water, becomes transparent, clear as shining crystal. Its sun-like brilliance is free from obscuring clouds. Its light transcends all forms of blindness. Ignorance and confusion thus vanish without trace. This is the truth I have experienced within. Again, the foolish concept demons itself is groundless, void, and yet illuminating. Oh, this indeed is marvelous and wonderful. And that brings to a close the poems that I have by Milarepa. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that you try out some of the attunements and kaleidoscopes while you're here, and have a beautiful day. Namaste.